A woman's car broke down in the wilderness. A man in black offered help, but she refused, saying she called a tow truck and closed her window. The man returned to his car, but she noticed he wasn't leaving, making her anxious. She turned on her headlights and screamed, trying to escape through the passenger door, only to find it blocked by a tree. Futile. Soon, she was dragged from the snow, stripped, and tied with a belt for dismemberment. The chain was fastened to a post, and the man selected a knife from the table, approaching her. She had regained consciousness and begged the man not to kill her. The man felt no pity. Instead, the thought of 2 lives excited him more. While dismembering the body, the woman's engagement ring accidentally fell. Although he heard the metal drop, he looked around but found nothing. Finally, while cleaning the scene, he flushed the ring down the drain. Unexpectedly, this ring became a crucial clue later, leading to the man's downfall. A child found a woman's body under a bridge, shocking South Korea. Police began an investigation, and national media quickly reported on it. Her fiancé couldn't believe the reality when he learned of the incident. At the funeral, he cried loudly, unable to accept that just a month after their engagement, he faced such a blow. Deshawn, a South Korean intelligence officer, vowed to avenge his fiancé's death and obtained a tracking capsule from a colleague. He then sought out his retired father-in-law from the police force and got a list of 4 top suspects. Starting with the first suspect, he broke into the house and strangled him with a wire, showing him photos of the crime scene. The terrified man shook his head, and Deshawn realized he wasn't the killer. Feeling disappointed, he took a wrench from the house. Next, he found the second suspect and knocked him down without hesitation, but he still wasn't the killer. With only 2 suspects left on the wall, he felt anxious and worried. If none of them were the killer, what would he do? Just as he was in despair, a photo caught his attention. The next day, Deshawn found the suspect's family and asked for the latest address, but even the suspect's mother didn't know where he lived. When Deshawn showed her the photo, she looked surprised. It turned out the third suspect, named Old Choi, hadn't been home for over a decade. Old Choi's child was raised by his grandparents. The grandfather informed Deshawn that his grandson knew the location. The boy, filled with hatred for his father, disclosed it to Deshawn. This investigation unexpectedly brought back painful memories. He searched Old Choi's house for crucial clues. He used an iron rod to forcefully hit the lock, then pried it open. Soon, he unlocked it and found various women's bags in the cabinet, then in the middle layer. He found various masks and looked at the cluttered cabinet in shock. As he searched for something about his fiancée, the door behind him unexpectedly creaked open. Nervously, he turned and quietly walked to the door, seeing blood covering the concrete floor. Walking further in, he was horrified to find his fiancée's ring in the drain. Clutching the ring tightly, anger surged like lava. He installed a tracker on Old Qui's car, and his brutal revenge plan began. Old Qui was still searching for his next prey, unaware of the danger. He kidnapped a schoolgirl to the greenhouse, preparing to assault her. Suddenly, a sound came from afar. Old Qui picked up a sickle, slowly stood up, and opened the door, finding a man. He turned on all the lights and asked who he was. Deshawn. Deshawn stood still, not answering. His eyes were filled with rage, as if he wanted to devour him whole. Old Qui charged at the lone person. Let go. Deshawn covered the man's head with a plastic bag and used his arm to strangle his neck. Old Qui struggled, but soon his breath weakened. Exploiting his weakness, Deshawn hit his head on a rock. As he grabbed a stone to strike, he paused. He felt he couldn't let him die easily. If he were to die, it should be painfully, as true revenge. He placed a tracking capsule in Old Qui's mouth and broke his arm before leaving. When Old Qui woke up, he discovered an envelope of money next to him. He cursed, confused. Unbeknownst to him, hellish punishment awaited. Injured, Old Qui hailed a taxi. He noticed the driver didn't match the ID and pretended to use a mirror to check the back. The passenger in the backseat gave him a strange look. As a demon, he didn't expect to face another group of killers. He laughed oddly, causing the backseat passenger to pull a knife, believing they had found another easy target. Unbeknownst to them, they were the prey. Both sides sensed something was off, making the car's atmosphere suffocating. Old Qui searched the trunk for clothes, washed up, and left. By the time Deshawn arrived, it was a mess. He realized Old Qui's terror. Old Qui went to the clinic to heal. The old man there was concerned about his injuries but was harshly scolded by Old Qui. You, take off your glasses. Hurry up, hurry up. A female nurse's entrance broke the awkward atmosphere. Old Qui's eyes lit up, but the nurse was unaware of the danger. As she was about to rest, Old Qui, who had been waiting, approached her. The nurse froze, too scared to speak. Old Qui threatened her to undress fast, or she'd face a terrible fate. To escape, the nurse tearfully complied. But as she was down to the last piece, she begged for mercy, angering Old Qui. He smashed a metal can on her face. Seeing her delay, Old Qui decided to act. He pushed her head down. At the critical moment, Deshawn arrived, hitting her with a fire extinguisher, knocking her down. Old Qui tried to crawl away but was pulled back by Deshawn, who then hit him with a chair until Old Qui lost the strength to resist. He picked up a scalpel and severed his Achilles tendon. Old Kui screamed, slapping the floor in pain, nearly fainting. Old Kui was let go, and Deshawn's revenge plan had just begun. He wanted to torture this demon to death. Old Kui was forced to find help but was met with Fatty's ridicule. Feeling humiliated, Old Kui glared at him, and Fatty softened. However, Fatty was no good either. His fridge was full of corpses, and he ate human flesh daily. Seeing the fridge's stock was low, he dragged a corpsewoman from the cellar. Just as he was about to kill her, a noise outside stopped him. Deshawn found this place. He rushed up, unaware of the danger, and just as he was about to kill Fatty, Old Kui arrived with a rifle. Deshawn swiftly dodged the bullet and quietly went upstairs while Lao Kui searched for him. While Deshawn observed ahead, a woman suddenly approached him with a knife. Luckily, he was quick and avoided the attack. Angrily, he punched the woman hard, knocking her to the ground. Just as he was about to pick up a stick from the ground, a fat man came at him with a knife. Suddenly, a sound came from the stairwell. He quickly threw nails on the ground and hid. He angrily kept hitting his head to vent his anger, doubling the suffering his fiancée endured back to him. He hit until his hand weakened. Eventually, Lao Kui was taken to the car, but as Deshawn wiped himself in the rearview mirror, he was horrified to realize that in seeking revenge, he had become a monster. Deshawn took Lao Kui to the hospital. While chatting, he accidentally revealed the tracking capsule's secret. Deshawn signaled his friend to stop and quickly pulled the curtain to check on Lao Kui. Seeing he was still unconscious, he left relieved. He didn't expect Lao Kui to be awake and aware of the tracking capsule. Deshawn never imagined a simple conversation could spiral into chaos. Lao Kui limped away from the hospital, laughing devilishly. You've definitely heard this song, right? It's so good, so good, so good. Let me guess who you are. Director Zhang from Yuanli Agriculture, right? Did I get it wrong? But, you made a mistake. You fell for me too easily. You've wanted to kill me for a long time. You'll regret it now. You don't even recognize me. Welcome, I'll teach you the true pain of boxing. Deshawn was lost. Lao Kui then said he would turn himself in, meaning Deshawn's revenge was impossible. Deshawn didn't expect to lose control. Driving in hot pursuit, but by the time they reached the pharmacy, Lao Kui had escaped, even killing the owner. He realized his carelessness gave Lao Kui the chance to harm innocents. Meanwhile, Lao Kui expelled the tracking capsule, cleaned it, and was unsure where to dispose of it when a cop walked in, sparking a new idea. He knocked out the cop in the restroom, stuffed the capsule into his mouth, and drove off in the police car. By the time Deshawn arrived, it was too late. Lao Kui was out of control. Deshawn was lost, like a headless chicken, not knowing what to do. His negligence led to a terrible event. Deshawn had to go to the hospital to find Fatty and ask about Lao Kui's whereabouts, only to be mocked by Fatty, who said he messed with the wrong person. Lao Kui would return the harm tenfold. You, woman, shouldn't be that bad, right? This guy is different from me. He usually enjoys himself before killing. This guy enjoys himself first. So funny, so funny, so funny. I'll make sure you never smile again. Deshawn hurriedly drove to his father-in-law's house and made a call, but Lao Kui had already arrived. The father-in-law was brutally stabbed dozens of times, lying barely alive. Lao Kui didn't stop there. He described killing his daughter to him, then hit his head with a dumbbell. The father-in-law screamed in agony. Suddenly, the door opened. It was the younger daughter returning home. She noticed something was off and curiously looked around, while Lao Kui watched her from the shadows. Just as the younger daughter was about to enter the bedroom, by the time Deshawn arrived, the place was a mess. The father-in-law was still alive, looking at him in tears, regretting letting Lao Kui go and feeling guilty. The younger daughter was also assaulted and abandoned on the street. Everything was irreversible. Lao Kui stood in the road, surrendering to the police, bloodied, waving arrogantly and surveying the scene. He felt like the victor. Just at this critical moment, things took a turn. Deshawn opened the driver's side door. Deshawn brought Lao Kui to his murder factory, tied him to the guillotine. Fear appeared in his eyes, while Deshawn showed no expression. He stubbed out his cigarette on Lao Kui's wound, making him scream and curse Deshawn. Furious, Deshawn forced a screwdriver into his mouth. Lao Kui unexpectedly pleaded for mercy, leaving Deshawn in tears. He couldn't grasp how this pervert could say such things. Lao Kui, in tears, pleaded for mercy, claiming he had paid dearly and hoped Deshawn would relent. He bowed his head, sobbing and apologizing. Deshawn asked if he was scared. Slowly, he raised his head, but it was all a facade by Lao Kui, telling him to stop talking nonsense, saying he had already lost and to just kill him, claiming he couldn't feel pain or fear. Lao Kui felt no regret in death, intensifying Deshawn's hatred and anger. He stood up and left, leaving Lao Kui confused. The door and rope were connected to his mouth. If he let the rope slip, the blade would instantly decapitate him. Lao Kui thought it was a trick and believed he could survive. However, the arrival of 3 people crushed his hope. He cursed the tracking capsule, which Deshawn heard. Suddenly, a shout of "Dad" threw him into chaos. He never expected his family to be there. His father kept pulling the door, and he bit the rope tightly, not daring to let go. Deshawn heard Lao Kui's death and slowly removed his headphones, walking alone on the road. He finally broke down, crying out loud, releasing the long-suppressed pain. He knew that no matter how much he avenged, his beloved would never return. After avenging his fiancée, he wondered how to continue his life. He lost his spiritual guide and became a walking corpse.